Welcome everyone, this is Yvonne Davis and David Steele. We're accredited facilitators with Rocky Mountain Compassionate Communication Network, and this is Unleash Your Creativity, a blending of The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron and Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. So this is week 10, and we are going to discuss something today, which we talked about before, and now all of a sudden I've forgotten what it was. Do you remember?
I remember what it was.
Okay, go for it. What was it that we were going to talk about today?
Distraction.
Distraction?
Yes. So
that this is a spiritual path.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you start with that Marianne Williamson quote that you like?
Okay. Yeah, so we were talking this morning about the subject matter in week 10 and how Julie Cameron says that this is a spiritual path, and, you know, discussing the reasons why we block ourselves or get distracted or use addiction or things like that, that really the addictions do distract us and pull us away from our creativity and block our creativity. And why do we do that? So one of the thoughts that came up is what Marianne Williamson said about how it's actually not, the fear that we have is not about that so much that we're inadequate, but rather what we fear is our incredible power and our light.
Yeah, maybe in fact you could put that quote in the thing below the exact quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, so protection, distraction, interaction. When we are constantly caught up in the details of living, and boy, have we gotten good at that with cell phones and text messaging and Facebook and advertising, a world of constant distraction. And if we're going to step into our power and be the creative beings that we are, we have to have time to be with ourselves. And we've talked a lot in this video about the external versus internal locus of control. So the question is who I am defined by the world around me, or is it defined by the world inside of me? Is my life an expression of who I truly am as a being, or is it an endless series of reactions to what's happening around me? And so if you're following a path of artistic endeavor, what you're doing is you're learning to take an inspiration that's within you and bring it out into the world. So there has to be that connection with the inner self that is expressed and puts an imprint on the world rather than simply being imprinted by the world. Something happens when we step into that internal awareness. And I think it's a lot of the reason that we get distracted, that we get caught up in the various addictions that Julie talks about in this chapter and stuff. And that is when we really step into our own power. We have to give up blame. It can't be, there can't be excuses. I loved in Star Wars, in the Empire Strikes Back, and Luke is in this jungle planet after having been defeated, studying with Yoda, and Yoda gives him a task and he says, "I'll try," and Yoda says, what is this try? You either do or you do not. And I just love that line because it's really that simple. We either do stuff or we don't do stuff. And when you give up blame, that's simply a fact. It's not like, oh, I didn't do this, I'm such a failure, you know, or, oh, look at what I pulled off. Boy, am I hot stuff. So when we give up blame, it lifts a burden off of us. And at the same time, though, we can't hide from ourselves. So I think that's why we get distracted. So I've talked for a long time. I'm curious as to what you have to say.
Well, I think all that's true. And because of the fact, I have an announcement to make, which is I had mentioned in at least one or two of the previous videos that I had been planning to attend the Sarah Payton workshop, but I didn't know exactly how that was going to happen because, as you know, my financial reality is like walking on water. So it takes a lot of faith. So I didn't know exactly how that was going to all unfold. I just knew that I wanted to be there. So I just wanted to give this announcement, which is, yes, it did happen. I was at the Sarah Payton workshop this past weekend, which was March 17th and 18th. And we learned so much there.
We're in 2018, by the way.
Yeah, just because we know, I don't know when you're going to be watching this video, but yeah, we just learned so much there. And Sarah Payton combines nonviolent communication with neuroscience. So we were learning a lot about the brain and how it, the way our brain is structured helps to create our reality. But that can also be a hindrance sometimes. But learning about the brain helps us to know what we can do to grow brains that are more holistic and more functional. So we have more access to the different parts of our brain, which gives us more access to the external reality. And I'm just longing to bring some of that new learning into this program because it's just so alive for me. So I don't know if this is the time in this video or if we want to go ahead and bring this one to an end, and then some of the other videos this week, we can bring in some of that work.
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
And this is live.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, I asked for your thoughts because I talked about giving up blame and stepping into our power. Mm-hmm. And then when the narrative went to you, you immediately started talking about Sarah Payton mm-hmm. and bringing in brain stuff, and mm-hmm. it never addressed my question. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was a perfect example of distraction.
Okay, that's probably true. Yeah, yeah.
So I would like to bring closure to the distraction, blame conversation, mm-hmm. and then maybe pick up the brain stuff on the next video.
Okay, you might need to repeat. I will make another confession here. I noticed that what happened was we had done the first 9 weeks and we were really on fire at the beginning of this year. And then we took probably a 2-week break because I was moving. So I had a lot of, I think it's fair to say, disruption in my life that does take time and energy. And so for both of us, just because of the circumstances of the workshop, other people were slowing down as well. So we had time to be able to take that break, and we chose to take that break, and it met needs. And then we had the Sarah Payton workshop, which we had a lot of work to do because our organization, Rocky Mountain Compassionate Communication Network, was presenting Sarah Payton for 3 days, the March 16th, 17th, and 18th. So there was a lot of work to do to bring her to town, and then being at these events ourselves, and then all the socializing that goes on when our community comes together. So that took a lot of time and energy. So we chose to focus our energy on those activities and ended up taking a 2-week break on the Artist's Way. And I admit that I have kind of lost the stream that I was in, and it's taking me some time to get back into that stream. So it is fair to say I'm a bit distracted, yes. And I lost the stream of your thought. I was distracted because I was still thinking so much about Sarah Payton.
And so have you lost it a second
Yeah,
time?
I don't remember what you were saying.
Okay, we'll circle back to it.
Okay.
So I want to say something about what you just said, which is one of the most renowned poets of the 20th century was Dylan Thomas. I believe he was Irish. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, because now if I'm wrong, you'll get all kinds of comments. But one of the things he said is, when you write poetry, some of the verse just pours out of you, and it's like it's divinely inspired, and it just lands on the page when it's perfect. And then other sections, they just suck. They come out, they're just not good. And so you have this really stellar verse right next to the stuff that really sucks. And the stuff that does not just pour out of you, you have to work and work and work and work and work to get it right. And that the mark of a great poet, when you read their poems, is you can't tell which was the stuff that just came out divinely inspired, and the stuff that they had to really work to bring into shape. And I bring that in because that's kind of the discipline of a professional demeanor. And sometimes I walk into a workshop and it's not just there. So other times I'm on fire, as you like to say, and it just pours out of me. But even when I walk in and it's not there and I really have to work, I still am able to deliver a quality experience to the people who attend. And that's a choice of conscious commitment, which brings me back to what we've been distracted from twice now, which is I was talking about giving up blame as part of stepping into our power. And that often we keep ourselves distracted and don't step into our power because there's a comfort that comes from being able to blame, which is an external locus of control issue, where we are more defined by reacting to our environment than we are by creating our environment and putting an imprint on it through our creative expression. And so that's the summary. Now, would you like to react, or are we going to be distracted again?
I still don't know what the question is, though.
Oh, I love it. The question is, there wasn't a specific question. I was curious to what your thoughts were about the role that blame plays in all of this, and what your experiences are of having internal, external locus of control awarenesses, and the Marianne Williamson quote about stepping into our power and not being afraid of that. Yeah.
Well, one, I agree, first of all, and don't really know if I have a whole lot to add to that. I do find this conversation interesting, though, because it's like NVC Live, and I think that's actually what makes these videos more interesting, is the fact that they aren't scripted, they aren't rehearsed. And so we, whatever's alive in us is what ends up on the video. And this to me is interesting because I know there's something going on in you, and you were requesting something from me that you didn't receive, you didn't experience yourself receiving. So there was an unmet need in you. And I listened to you, and it's not, it's not landing. Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. It's like whatever it is you're requesting of me is not landing in me in such a way that I'm able to respond to you in the way that you were hoping or desiring, because clearly there is unmet need in you. And instead, I'm thinking about things like, I think Dylan Thomas is Welsh. I don't know.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And also just noticing, like, I'm guessing, I'm sensing frustration in you, but that's just my perception. So, but you know what? At the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I can be okay with this video just the way it is, just showing how, you know, sometimes
I think
things
the video
are
is
not,
great the
yeah,
way it is.
it's something, sometimes people just
totally,
aren't in sync.
Totally perfect demonstration.
Yeah. And maybe later, whatever you were saying will land in me in a way that it brings something to life, and then I'll be ready to share that. But at the moment, it was just, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I agree. That's all that came alive for me.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and bring this one to an end, and you get to see how Yvonne Davis and David Steele interact with each other. They're not always on the same page. Okay, so we'll say goodbye, and just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications, click like on the video, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.